Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fill the Glass, episode 17. I'm Kerry Millsap, and today I'm going to host a conversation with my faithful audience about some ideas that emerged after last week's show. Last week's show was a story that involved my friend Richard Russell, who had come over to my house, and we were having various conversations about work stuff and hobby stuff, and he ended up helping me fix a home project. We had a problem that we solved together that ended up being kind of a funny story. If you're interested in that, I'm going to refer you back to episode 16 on Fill the Glass on blaming Oracle for everything. The one very serious slide that I showed last week was this one here. As Richard and I were talking about the phenomenon of, why does it seem like every time there's a problem in an IT project, people blame the red word, the Oracle logo. And some of the answers that I had prepared for last week's show include, well, Oracle's probably in the name of your project, right? There's the Oracle payroll project. Oracle's probably your project's biggest investment, especially since now Oracle sells hardware and software and services and support. Choosing Oracle pretty much defines your technical architecture. I mean, you're certainly not going to use any database brand other than Oracle on an Exadata, for example. You have lots of, and I put the word memorable in quotes, meaning love, hate. You have lots of love-hate relationships with Oracle people. And then some people I mentioned just simply resent big, successful companies. But anyway, these are some of the things that we talked about. And then after the show, I got quite a lot of feedback, both in the discussion and in some Slack conversations, including some DM stuff that we did. So I want to start with Andy with something that you said, because I was very impressed that basically the home improvement project that we were trying to fix was why are my gutters not working very well? And after the show, after we stopped recording, Andy mentioned that, yeah, when he puts up gutters, well, let me not steal your whole story, Andy. Tell the thing about your garden hose, please.
Oh, well, when you put up gutters, I'll run a hose and squirt, water onto the roof just to make sure that the water's going all the way down. There's no gaps or, buckets. My math was wrong.
Yeah.
But I think in your case, that wasn't sufficient to catch your workload.
Yeah, I love the metaphor of, okay, I mean, just the fact that you go outside, because see, the gutter guy doesn't come out if it's raining. The gutter guy only comes out and puts the gutters on your house, and I'm not sure.
Sunny days.
Yeah, and I hope that the concept of gutter actually makes sense to everybody in a potentially international audience. But it's basically the troughs that go on the edge of your roof that catch the rainwater and then funnel it down into a tube that then gets carried away through some organized manner. And for us, it's a huge pipe that goes to the curb on our street. And on a sunny day, you really can't test a gutter very well. You can take a garden hose and you can spray, a gallon per 2 minutes onto your roof and just make sure that there aren't any big holes in your gutter. Make sure that the water is actually flowing to the downspout. But that's not really an effective volume test. And boy, when it's raining like cats and dogs, millions of gallons per hour per yard, it's a whole different, you can see things that are going to happen in a torrential downpour that you wouldn't have expected just by testing with a garden hose. But it's a huge jump to go from not testing at all to testing with a garden hose. And I love the idea of testing at all. So I thought that was a really cool observation. And Andy, thank you for sharing it. And then Martin, I want to pick up on, and let's say I've lost Martin's picture, so I hope Martin's still here.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on, oh, cool, I hear you. The comment that you made to me about observer bias, because I really think that's important as well.
Well, I assume you had hundreds of your garden projects or projects at home, and most of them probably were successful, more or less, and you learned a lot of things. You identified uh, areas to improve. But you told us about the one where Oracle was involved in comparison to all the others which were also successful and probably funny.
Right.
You had experience with your friends, but you didn't talk about it.
Right. Right. And that reminded me of something when I read that I really need to say. If it weren't for Oracle, I wouldn't have a wood shop. I mean, in a way, my whole life has been structured by my participation in the Oracle ecosystem, right? I literally don't have a wood shop. Well, I can't tell you the result of alternative universe possibilities. If I don't work for Oracle, maybe I go to work for somebody else and become successful enough to own a wood shop. But the fact is that I only have a wood shop because I did well enough with Oracle that I could afford one. And a lot of projects are that way. There's a whole ecosystem. We wouldn't be gathered here with this great team if it weren't for Oracle. It's what binds us. And so in a way, it is so fundamental and so important to most of the things that we do that it's almost inevitable that it's going to get the blame.
I think the one that comes to me right now is, again, the common denominator. You know, we talked about the common denominator of all the different people that you're going around trying to help out on one thing is the business activity that you're taking place, that they're trying to get done, right? And that's really the way you're going to measure performance. And the other common denominator is the Oracle database, right? Everything gets, it's like the center traffic cop, right? It's where time and money come together and stuff happens. And so I think that, to me, common denominators, understanding what you're really doing and understanding how it's really happening is central to, you know, the things that just the way my mind works, and I'm pretty sure it's the way your mind works too.
Yeah.
Does that cover the one you thinking about?
Yeah, I think so. And what that reminds me of as you say that is that there's actually a penalty involved in not having, if you have an Oracle database in your architecture and you don't make it the central focal point of your processing. For example, I've run across people who think, well, okay, so the database at the center of everything is destined to be my bottleneck because everything touches it. So let's do some things like, instead of making this poor overburdened database to a bunch of joins, let me do those joins in a middle tier. I'll write them in Java, and that way I'll be able to scale them out, and I'll be able to buy loads and loads of pizza box Dell cheap hardware and feed it capacity that way, instead of having to feed, you know, the expensive centralized Oracle system. And it just makes things worse because now you end up with all these Java applications that are doing full table scans of Oracle and then throwing away 99.999% of the rows in some join code that's been written in Java that, by the way, may not work as well as the join code works that's in the Oracle database kernel. So it's funny sometimes that people try to actually, you know, finger quote, save the database from doing all the work that it needs to do. And by attempting to do so, they actually exacerbate the problems that they're piling onto the database.
And I think that's where tracing does help to enlighten people to the fact that the databases can do things more efficiently.
Yeah.
For instance, that. And I think being able to trace and present the data in a logical fashion such that anyone can look at it and go, oh yeah, look at that. It makes more sense to do it that way.
Right.
I mean, from tracing the processes just random tracing. And I don't mean random. What I did was I traced, this is how I got the 2,700 files. I turned on tracing for a particular database during a particular process for one of our software systems, just so I could learn what it does. When they tell me they're starting up an instance, this is their vernacular. What does that mean from the database perspective? So that's why I did that. And that in and of itself is huge because now I don't have to guess so much. Yeah. I can go, oh, okay, well, if it's slow when this is happening, then maybe we should look here or whatever. It just gives you so much more information, and information is power.
Yeah, indeed. And you mentioned something that ties back to something that Martin said, and Martin probably better if you say it, but in the DM, you mentioned that just the very fact that Oracle has such rich instrumentation also contributes to why people blame the database.
Yeah, it's probably a thing we all have seen. Within the Oracle database, we can measure a lot of things, and we often, and especially with tracing, we even see where time is not spent at Oracle. But it's so much easier to collect this data with our beloved trace instead of having any thing on the Java side, let's say, or ask network guys to start network tracing. We would see the same details there. But it took so much more time to get the results. It's easier for us to just fire up tracing and see what's going on. And because Oracle is such a central part, or databases are often a central part, we have an observation about many other areas as well.
That does remind me, I was going to say the same thing that you said, Nancy, about the trace file. The other conversation that we had before that, I don't know if that was one you were thinking of either, but I like to work on cars. We talked about I have a 66 Mustang that I'm working on, and it has no electronics at all. So you work on a carburetor, you work on each individual piece. And my analogy there is you got an application guy, you got a DBA guy, you got all the different people that I would normally, run around and talk to on an old engine that's not connected, has no technology in it. It's everybody just has to do their job, right? And if you do your job and it's a well-engineered system, it's going to be fine. Well, I've got another car that I'm working on, and it's got a electronic fuel injection, but it's like a carburetor with a throttle body. So it has sensors, and when you look at an electronic ignition engine, you've got sensors, you've got a controller, and then you've got the actuators. So you've got things that sense something, you've got a logic, and then the actuators to change more fuel, less fuel, that type of thing. I took it out last weekend and got it up on a dyno, and we did the whole thing. And they have trace files, right? They pull a trace file off this Holly software, and they're trying to figure it all. But their trace files look like the CPU chart, right? It's just a curve. It's got the graph on. Well, it looks like you're using a lot of fuel here. Your timing's over there. And I got this guy. He's no Army vet. He's a cool dude, man. He was got his little laptop. He's running around. We're going up and down the street in my Cobra, and he couldn't fix it. At the low end, we had a problem. So he pointed me over to the injector. Maybe it's the injection system or the ignition system. And so now I got to replace the ignition system because that might be it. But if you look at the new cars, like a brand new car with these really modern engines, they've got sensors on every cylinder. They've got actuators on every cylinder. They've got all the data you need, and they look at that data and control that data. And the way that they're able to get so much efficiency out of a modern engine is that they're able to watch the entire 4-stroke cycle from beginning to end, cylinder by cylinder, which is what you could do with Carrie's tool, with Carrie and Jeff's tool, right? And so that granularity of what is it doing, it takes it out of the guessing. And so the modern engines, and you could look at how much more efficient and reliable modern engines are than the previous ones. And it's because they've taken it down to not just guessing what each major group does, but looking at the actual boom, boom. They've got crank sensors and cam sensors, all these things along the way. And number 3 is misfiring because of this. And so to me, that's sort of when you change the way you look at it, and you're not looking at the different components of load, and you're looking at what are you actually doing and understanding. And I think, Carrie, you talk about the islands and the water and the different ways of looking at inefficiencies. But to me, that's another way of change. The difference between the way Method R works of looking at what you're doing and an analogy that ties back to similar thing. The other analogy I like to use is, you guys, anybody old enough to remember the old I Love Lucy episodes? They've got there's the one with the chocolate factory.
Yeah.
And they got, Lucy and Ethel are trying to keep up with this chocolate, and it just keeps going, and it gets all crazy. And all I think is, I want to go on the other side of that window and go, what the hell are y'all doing? Just feed them through one at a time, man. You're killing me. And I want to go downstream and go, what's this impacting you guys, right? I think linearly across the whole thing, just like you're talking about. And, that's another example of, if you're not just laying on a conveyor belt and going through the process and understanding what's going on, and you just look at one piece of it, you're not gonna understand the big picture.
Well, hey folks, I'm looking at the clock, and we're out of time. Today's show, I think, was a lot of fun. This was Fill the Glass. It's a weekly podcast that I record live on Zoom, and I'm Kerry Millsap. If you'd like to join us, just visit methodart.com/filltheglass. I would love it. You know, all the YouTubers say the same thing. I'd love it if you click like and subscribe. We're slowly creeping up on 1 million subscribers. 1 million. I'm only missing 4 or 5 zeros. They're just zeros. It's not a big deal. If you need help with performance of either your systems or your people, please reach out to us. We have software training, coaching. We can help. Thank you again, everybody in the audience. It was a great conversation. I appreciate you being here for it. We'll see you next week.